Okay, everyone, thanks very much for coming this afternoon. I'm William Donald. I'm the Business Development Manager for Stafsjo, knife gate valve supplier. Hopefully, maybe you're all familiar with this Swedish company. It's based south of North Shopping. I'm going to give you a little bit of oversight of my experiences in Australia. I've been invited by my colleagues to come up here and share a bit of my experience. Now, I'm just going to run through a bit of a story. Starting at the end seemed like a good place to start for me. And just to start off, this isn't a Stafsjo knife gate valve. This is one that I found on a site in Southeast Asia. It's really in the middle of nowhere. It's in Laos, and it's 3 kilometres from the mine site, so it's a real pain in the bum to get out there. And you can see that it's almost inoperable. So to get on top of this thing and close it is a huge safety issue there. There's more tailings, this is a tailings line, there's more tailings coming out the side of the valve than there is going down the pipework. So I mean, it's just a nightmare for these guys on site. And if you're the one picked to go down there, they run to the hills. So this is just and obviously you don't have that problem in Sweden, I would imagine. All your valves work perfectly on site. So when I was standing looking at this thing, I was thinking the amount of money and the amount of time that took to get that valve. Well, if you start in the beginning, you've got an engineer specking what valve you want out in the tailings line. You've got all these engineers sitting together, to and fro, saying we want this, we want that. They eventually decide, it goes to the procurement department puts through an order, the order goes to the supplier ships this thing from wherever it comes from, maybe from China, comes across to Laos, goes in a boat, goes in a truck, it gets to site, they take it out to the inn, and then you have that. I mean, complete waste of time. And money if you put the dollars behind that. And now they've got to go and do the same thing and go to another supplier and get the valve out there. So if you're thinking of dollars not in terms of the actual valve, but in terms of the selection up front, this is the sort of the message that, we as suppliers want to get across. That it's not the product, it's, the overall package that we offer. So starting from the beginning, how did this crap valve get out onto site? I don't know if there's anyone here from a design company, EPCM or anything, but this was designed in Australia, and it was designed during the time that Australia was in a mining boom, and all the engineers went out to the mine sites to work because they're getting paid heaps of dollars. So no design engineers left. So they pulled the design engineers from the oil and gas to design the mine sites, and they didn't have a clue of what they were meant to put in there. They didn't talk to any of the suppliers to get ideas or information or selection. They just went and designed it as well as they could. And obviously at the end of a project, the valves are the last things they think of. And they've got the cyclones, they've got the pumps, they've got the mills, they've got all this together, and then they think, shit, the valves. They throw together a package, they go out to tender, they're always a rush to get into site, and they don't give much thought to it. So really during the project, it needs a lot more upfront discussion. This is what I call the valve graveyard. I went to site, and site had basically stopped. It had been commissioned 6 months before I took this photograph, and it had virtually ground to a halt. So I mean, normally on a site, no one thinks about a valve. You walk past millions of these things sitting in there, and no one thinks about them. All of a sudden, it becomes a showstopper, and production stopped, and the mining manager's there. And, you go out there, you have a look at this problem, and they're just hot to trot to try to get something to solve the problem. When the problem's solved, everyone forgets about the valves again. So really, we only get taken into this situation when there's major disaster like this. So how does it come to this? The big thing that we try to remember is fitness for purpose. That you can make anything work, but for how long, how well, and how safe. So, I mean, you can shove a valve in there that comes out of China or Korea or wherever it comes out of, and it's not designed for slurry handling. It's designed for wastewater, or sometimes not designed at all. They just make it, And you can stick it in there, and then you'll have the same thing that's happened on that first slide. Just like these guys, they hang in there, but I don't know how long they're going to last. This is a little clip from Australia. Not all the sites on Australia have poorly operate like this, but anyway, some of them do. I'll just turn this volume down if I can. The narration isn't so good on that. But anyway, these are valves that are misapplied. So these are designed for the water industry and sometimes the pulp and paper industry. They're not for isolating slurry. And you can see the top, you know, these things, you can't stop the process. So it just spews stuff out all over the mine site, and it's a terrible place to work. So they're obviously not what we call fit for purpose. They're designed for a purpose that they'd be quite suitable in, but they're applied in an application where they're not suitable at all. And that's where, as a supplier, we have that knowledge. And up front, when you're going to put a valve in, you select one that's affordable if it hasn't got a heavy duty. And if it's got a heavy duty, then you select one that is most appropriate. So that valve there looks like this one here. They're commodity valves, okay? The solids build up in the bottom of the valve. The gate comes down here, and it hits the solids and it can't shut all the way. And then the slurry goes underneath the gate and it wears the gate away, the body away. You've got safety issues. It'll eventually come through the body of the valve, and then you know that when the bloody thing's leaking. If you're trying to isolate a pump, if you're a fitter working on a pump and you have a valve upline, upstream or downstream like that in there, you wouldn't feel very secure. So the Stafsjo valve, you can see, pushes through the two rubber seats that are clamped together by the pipework, pushes all the way through, so it's like a blind plate going through the pipe, completely 100% isolated. When the gate's retracted, it's completely out of the flow of the slurry, so it's not getting worn at all. And the inside bore of the valve, when the gate's open, is just an extension of the rubber line pipe. So this is what you apply in a slurry situation. Now, if you go onto the web and you want to buy a valve and you type in valve supplier, you'll only get 22.5 million hits. That'll be an easy find to get someone that's going to be able to give you the right valve. The majority of those are people that just buy out of China, badge and sell to you, or they get a conglomeration of different suppliers and then pick and choose and give you a valve, but they actually don't have any expertise what they're going to give you. If you want cheap stuff, they'll give you cheap stuff. And they won't give you any idea of where you should put it or what you should use. So be very aware. Stafsjo is a manufacturer. They manufacture all their products and they only manufacture knife gate valves. So if you got rid of suppliers, if you got rid of people that weren't manufacturers, you'd come down to probably, 500,000, but a lot less than this. And as I said, Stafsjo only manufacture knife gate valves. So that's the range. There's a whole stack of them. I won't go through them all, obviously, but there's a valve for every purpose. If you've got a dry hopper with granular product in there, there's a valve for that. You've got slurry, valve for that. You've got corrosive, abrasive, again, valves and materials for that as well. So it's quite complex selection. And as I said, you'll only know when you've got a valve problem when they're failing. Otherwise, you won't think about it. So Stafsjo's been around since 1666, and they've been manufacturing knife gate valves for 100 years. So the guys there live and breathe the valves. I mean, whether a little bit sad, but it's great for everyone that wants a valve. The experience and the design team is just fantastic there. So again, it's how we can help. This is my friend over in Australia. He's very passionate about it as well. That's a valve that we've recently supplied to a big Rio Tinto iron ore mine in Australia. I'll touch on that in a minute if I have time. So one of the things that we can do and comes in handy, which we did for that site in Laos, was you can go around and do a valve audit. So if you've got a problem on site or some of the valves are working, some aren't working, and you want to clean up the whole situation, Stafsjo can go around and we can do a valve audit, have a look at all the applications, see if it's the valve that's failing or the installation, where it is in the pipework, give some recommendation about out of that product range, what we should put in there. Take out a expensive valve if you need to that's failed and put in one that's less expensive because it's on a duty where you don't need it. Or if you've got valves that are failing all the time on the cyclone clusters or something, we'd recommend a different valve. So, it's possible to go through it's possible to go through and do all this, and at the end of the day, come up with a report, 20-minute presentation and say, bang, 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 this is what you should do. And then, work with you to discuss this. So, what I ask, is this an isolated story? And it's not. This happens all the time with EPCs, and nothing against EPCs, but they're always in a rush to get it done. So the best thing you can do is sit down up front and get the specification correct, and then work. If everything's right in the beginning, then the money you save when you're designing a plant, as you run through the procurement, getting all your inspection test plans, all your documentation, everything going like that, the money you save there is probably more than the money you'll save buying a cheaper product, because the dollars that it costs to actually get the project over the line and get all the management and everything going, if you haven't done the selection up front correctly, will cost you a lot of money. Now this is a few pickies from Australia. In Australia recently, there's been 4 big Rio Tinto iron ore sites that they've built, and they've all been built one after the other, so they're all being commissioned at the moment. 3 of them are being commissioned at the moment. They're all failing. The valves on them are all failing. So what they've got is they've got DSO plants over there where they just dig the stuff out, ship it on the boat, and they've put in magnetite recovery plants in there, wet process plants. Now, there hasn't been a lot of experience with the magnetite, so people have gone in there. The same supplier has won all 3 projects, and all 3 projects, one after the other after they've started commissioning, have hit big problems. And all the valves are failing. The valves on the tailings lines are failing, so that the plants are in a massive problem at the moment. And this is all due to the fact up front that they didn't do the correct selection, and also that it's quite a new process, and the people that supply the valves didn't have the knowledge to be able to foresee what might happen on this magnetite site. So I went up there to visit one. I mean, underneath the valves are just spewing stuff out there everywhere, and underneath the pipework there's mounds of this magnetite. They come in with a bobcat every day and scrape this stuff out, ring up the suppliers, come out here, but they just can't solve the problem because the valve's not working. So recently in Australia we got the Stafsjo valve in there with Rio Tinto. We worked with them, and we installed these valves and they worked, and the blokes were over the moon. So all of a sudden we got this good opportunity with Rio Tinto, who's really happy with what we've done, to be able to fix all these problems on site. On the back of that, we were awarded the 4th Rio Tinto project. So they went away from the suppliers for the first 3, and they gave us the last one. And that's being delivered at the moment. It's going to be installed. It's fast-tracked. It'll be up and running, in 3 months. I mean, they want the tailings valves now because they want to get Rio's pushing the plant ahead. So we'll have good references for that very soon. So the experience we take out of Australia to bring over here is huge, and it all comes through the Stafsjo local people there, because we have very close contact. So iron ore here seems to be quite a big thing. So if you have any questions or you want to come and talk to us, we're in booth number 215. So pop over and I can give you some ideas or suggestions about what you might have, what we can do for you. Okay. Thank you very much.